This little short is about Facebook etiquette. Is there Facebook etiquette? There's a lot of anonymous trolls out there. So, of course, there's Facebook etiquette. So, I'm going to explain the situation first, and then I'm going to get into Facebook, okay? So, I believe in ranked choice voting. I think ranked choice voting would help Colorado as much. It would help Kentucky substantially. You could actually vote for your Jeff Youngs and your Gatewood Galbraiths without feeling that you're throwing your vote away. So it would make the election fair. It's not fair right now. You have the so-called spoiler effect. So people sit there and say, well, they don't have a chance. In some respects, they're okay. You know, that's probably true. But if you understood the system, what they do have the power to do is to take enough votes away from both of the candidates to where they affect public policy. So you can use, running as an independent third party and, as a spoiler. But without ranked choice voting, it's not a fair election. So you have to have ranked choice voting. You have to have ranked choice voting. Without the elections, you have nothing. You got a democracy and a republic. You think you got a democratic republic on your hands? Without a fair election, nothing else matters. Now, Jeff Sebastian is a Secretary of State candidate. There's 3 candidates, Belcher, Griffith, and Heather Renee French, the former Miss America for 2000. And because of that whole, you don't have a chance of winning, Miss America of 2000, she's got a chance of winning, right, because people know her. She's got name recognition, so politically, she could get elected. But a progressive, independent, libertarian, Green Party, they don't have a chance. They don't have a chance without ranked choice voting. So, Jeff Sebastian is in favor of ranked choice voting. I am not confident in his abilities, his understanding of the system. This is just an opinion. I've actually talked to somebody with just an opinion, and it was in Kentucky, and I was talking to this Kentuckian, and I said I wanted to legalize marijuana. So that's, that starts out as an opinion, but it's such a, ferocious force within inside of me that I'm going to get it changed, or, I'm going to go to some place that has already legalized it. And the person immediately said, well, you can't smoke pot and drive. Even though the person agreed with me, they disagreed immediately, saying this is going to be the problem. If you want what you're saying, well, this is going to be the problem. And if, when it comes to developing the legislation, all that would matter, but that person didn't have the ferocious appetite to legalize marijuana. So, what was the point? You had an opinion, you agreed with me, so if I would have, wasted hours and days and nights and contacted and organized, and if I would have done all of that, you know what I mean? It's just like, just say an opinion and it's the opposite. That person isn't going to do that. That person isn't going to, contact the legislatures and advocate and push for it. It's just a thought that just happened to be in their head at that time. So, this is the same with Jeff Sebastian. He's for ranked choice voting, but it's more of an opinion than an advocate or a champion of the idea. He didn't realize that he could get public financed elections as Secretary of State. He was like, how are you going to do that? You can advocate for laws, and you're part of the executive branch, so you are the one that enforces the laws. You enforce the laws on the books, and then you introduce new laws to the legislature for those changes that you want. So that's with all of the changes. That's even with the little tiny changes that they were, all of them, they all had really tiny changes. All the 8 Secretary of State candidates. So the Secretary of State is the chief elections official. If you don't realize the power that a chief elections official or the executive branch, that, the one that enforces the laws and leads and moves the nation, if you don't understand that, then you probably don't understand really just what the hell you're doing. The Republican Secretary of State candidates are strong men, literally in power and strength. Nett and English are, at least. So if Carl Nett or Andrew English win, they'll have the look of a leader, but not really the platform of one. But neither do the Democratic Secretary of State candidates. So the Republicans are going to put forth a formidable candidate. net and English will be formidable opponents. You don't have to have a platform in Kentucky to win. So the Democrats have, you know, they have an uphill battle. And so you need a good Secretary of State. You need a progressive one that's willing to stand up for to make sure things advance, to make sure things get better. And, you know, so all the Democratic Secretary of State candidates are decent, but they're not net and English strong. So Jason Griffith is who I endorse, and, you know, he's not really that much better than Sebastian. Net is an ex-Secret Service and ex-CIA guy. English is part of the Navy, and he's a lawyer for all the Kentucky cops. So just their resume, you know, they have a name, they have a resume, so that's going to be a formidable opponent for the Democrats. I do seem to think more about this Sebastian thing than I do about the policies of Adam Edelin or, you know, the other candidates, and that's not smart. That's not smart. And I think the reason is because we had a falling out. When you're a friend with somebody, and then, you know, then you're not a friend with them, it's kind of like, it hurts, right? If you pissed off a stranger or an enemy, well, who gives a shit? Fuck your enemies. Fuck you, enemy. And a stranger, you know, it might hurt a little bit, but you didn't know them. So I do need to think more about Adam Edelin and, you know, well, I'm not going to think about any of this stuff until after the election day. Because it's anybody's race. Anybody can win. This is totally all up in the air. So, yeah. When you were friends and then you're not friends, it hurts more than just a stranger or an enemy. So, we were good, now we're not. That sucks. So what did Jeff Sebastian do? He did, you know, he shitted on my Facebook several times. He's the one that friends me, and then he just is a disagreeable prick. He just keeps shitting on my Facebook page. And the last time, he defended millennials, or he was against millennials. He defended Joe Biden. And then when I started talking to him about the thing, he did a little yawn meme, right? Fuck the millennials. Now I'm going to use the internet and put a meme to pass my message to you. So he was acting very much like a millennial. But what bothered me was that he wasn't going to discuss the idea. I shitted on your page, and now I don't care what you say. Nope. No, I don't care what you say. Well, I wasn't being a dick. Now I feel like I want to be a dick now because I wasn't being a dick. I was just talking about, you know, an issue. And where is Gen X? Where is millennials? Where's Generation Z? Where are these, you know, dividing lines? I think that's an important question. So to talk about, you know, what did the Generation X do? What did the 90s, the 60s, what did the millennials do? I welcome this conversation. So he's just going to shit on my page. He's the one that friends me. Is that why he friended me, just to shit on my page? So I need more love from folks than hatred. If all you're doing is just shitting on my page, then fuck you. You can disagree with me. I don't mind that, but you're going to talk to me about it. You're just going to shit on my page and then just, you know, take off and be a contemptuous fuck. You know? Nope, I shitted on your page. I hate millennials and I stand by it. Okay, you little douchebag bitch. And he would shit on my page several times. He defended Joe Biden. Joe Biden hated millennials. I had a whole list of Bernie policies and Joe Biden policies. He could have talked about any of the actual policies of these two men. And it was a quote saying how Joe Biden hated millennials, but Bernie Sanders was actually fighting for millennials. And I think it was college, right? Bernie's going to get us free college, whereas Joe Biden had passed a bankruptcy bill. So if you get college loans and it fucks your life up and you don't get an education or get a job, you can't declare bankruptcy on that. So, yeah, not for contempt of breach of contract. So you can disagree with me. I don't mind you disagree with me. It'd be nice if you agree. The point of relationships is to find those connections. So I'd rather, you know, us to work on finding those connections. We can learn from disagreements. We can learn a lot from disagreements with people that are friends with one another and, you know, are willing to take the time and empathy to hear the other person out. Generally, during an argument, I won't concede anything during the argument. I might think about it and then come back the next day and be like, you know what? You made some good points. But he had no reason. Fuck the millennials just 'cause. So he went from 20 to 90 years old in a fucking moment. And then there's another person that jumped on, the Hillary Clinton asshole that jumped on and put fuel onto the fire. So he just talking to a bunch of, 80s and 70s and 60s and 50s people, and they're like, them damn millennials, and he's like, fuck them damn millennials. He's just being an old fuck. There's reasons, millennials don't vote. There you go. There's a reason why you can hate millennials. They don't vote. And they ought to, and they need to. So there's legitimate reasons, but he just said, fuck the millennials, and then just, what is that? That's not a relationship. Hey, fuck the millennials. I don't know if he knew I was a millennial or not. I feel, I'm the oldest of the millennials. So, and I welcome the new generation. I welcome the second enlightenment, the postmodern generation, the information generation. I think these are exciting times. So, you can disagree with me. Talk to me. You got to talk. He wouldn't talk, so he's just contentious right afterwards. So if you're going to say shit on my page, fuck you. He did it several times. He did it with his defense of Mitch McConnell. I said, hey, Mitch said this, and he's like, well, I actually agree with Mitch on that. Okay. Do you like the guy? Well, that's just your bias. No, his public policy is fucking terrible. He said he liked Muhammad Ali, then I, supported his post, and he started arguing with me. So I had to post the Ali quote, you're my opposer when I want freedom. So he'd shit on my page. He'd treat me like I was nothing. This one time when I was posted a picture of Covington Catholic wearing blackface. So that MAGA boy who didn't do anything wrong, but he does come out of a culture of a lot of fucking racism. So, why would he like a Trump? I don't know. Maybe there's all racists like Trump, but not all Trump supporters are racist. And that Covington Catholic, all those basketball boys were wearing blackface just 3 years ago, so it was very recent. And he was being a dick, and he says, take that anti-Kentucky shit down now. So you're going to pretend, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear about the racism. He's going to stop an anti-racist from pointing out, racist shit. And maybe he was just caught up in the moment with his emotions everybody was shitting on that MAGA boy. But he's going to act like there's no racism in Kentucky? Give me a fucking break. There's so much fucking racism in Kentucky. It's not even funny. It's one of the reasons that Kentucky sucks. Kentucky fought for the Union, and yet you see a ton of Confederate flags all over the place. If you wave a Confederate flag, you don't love America, nor do you love Kentucky. Kentucky fought for the United States of America in defense of freedom, to stop slavery. Kentucky was on the right side of history. And then it said that after the Appomattox, they joined the Confederacy. A lot of the ex-Confederates were getting elected into office. And there's brother versus brother. So I understand the pivotal role that Kentucky had in the Civil War, but I don't think the Confederates do. I think they're just saying they're racist, dumbass pieces of shit. They're just a bunch of white trash, racist, dumbass pieces of shit. And that's all they're telling everybody. So if you're going to tell somebody who's being anti-racist to shut up, he's not going to oppose racism. He's pretending it's not even there. So he said, hey, anti-racist, don't point out the racism that's in Kentucky. There's a lot of racism in Kentucky. You got KKK compounds. You got a lot of the symbolism of McAfee County, who is a Confederate, the general or the governor. There's a lot of symbolic racism. There's a lot of real racism. I grew up in Kentucky. You're going to tell me I don't fucking know that there's racism in Kentucky. And it's one of the worst things about Kentucky. So, yeah. How dare you speak about racism in Kentucky? So just, I started thinking about it. Me and him are just very, very different. When I would post on Jeff Sebastian's page, the only reason I would post on his page was with the intention to get more attention to his post. He's running for office. I wanted people to see what he was writing about. So to give him supporting statements, a hoorah for the things that I liked. I 100% believe in positive reinforcement. And I might have disagreed with minor things, but they're minor things. Why would you? You're disagreeing with me, okay? Y'all can disagree with me with minor things all day long. All day long. What, you think the Gen X generation was better than the millennials? Tell me why. I'll argue with that, I'll argue with you about that until the day I die. That Hillary Clinton ass, I like to you're criticizing. She's the one that actually asked me what good did the Gen X do. Because I said, what did the Gen X do? Give us Saved by the Bell? She's like, is that the only good thing you could think of? And I said, no. Actually, the Gen X had a lot of bad things, and I listed a couple things off, and she didn't say shit. And I said, what do you think was good about Gen X? She didn't have nothing to say. So you're going to ask me to list a bunch of good shit about your generation when you couldn't name one goddamn thing? So I 100% believe in positive reinforcement. Rah, 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 I like this, I like that. You might have an idea that I don't like, but I'll show it by loving every other idea of yours that I do like. I'm also supportive with my likes. There's a bunch of lonely posts on Facebook, and sometimes just having the smallest amount of support goes a long way. I like it when people express themselves, so I guess I'm a whore with my likes. I also notice that many folks whose posts I like, they don't ever say shit about my post. They don't ever like mine or do any attention to me. So they take the love, but they don't ever give it back. I do wish more folks were like me. I take suicidal posts very seriously. I would never contact the authorities, but, I would know that the best thing I could do is listen. I could be the best human I could be for them at that moment in time. So be the best that I can be. I could say this or that, and I can listen. And really, a lot of us just needs to be listened to anyways. So if you really want to talk to me about an issue, you're like, hey, I disagree with this issue, you're just going to shit on my wall, I think you'd private message me if you really cared about my opinion and you're trying to convince me of what you believed. But if you're going to just shit on my wall, then you're trying to publicly humiliate me on my own page. What the fuck good is that? And then when you're shitting on my page, you want other people to shit on my page. And maybe that could be an effective tactic to convince me of some point, some idea. And later on, if I came to my senses, I'd, come back to you. But you'd have to be right. And you better be fighting for something that's fucking important. A better tactic for me, instead of just trying to get the, everybody's Facebook friends against them, is to private message me. And then the conversation could get out of hand. We could get pissed about this or that, but ultimately I'd stick with it because you're not yelling or being disrespectful to me to get other people to be, shitty to me. And ultimately, if you're private messaging me, that means you truly want me to believe what you believe. On gun control, I had this one experience. So I'm at odds with many liberals when it comes to gun control. And if you can't hear what I'm saying, liberals, you're ignoring logic and me as a human being, which is worse. So hear me out, I'll hear you out. But if you think only your opinion matters and everybody just, a bunch of either, oppressors or oppressed, some of these gun control nuts are just as crazy as some of the right-wing nuts. Also pro-choicers, pro-lifers, capitalists, communists. Can we get some balance, people? So I agree that many of these gun control nuts should not be around guns at all. No, I agree. You should not be around a gun. Because if you disagreed with them, they'd shoot you. So I remember I liked this one progressive dude. He also friended me out of the blue. Probably a Bernie bro. He was smart about the Bitcoin blockchain, and he wanted that introduced into our election systems. After seeing a bunch of gun control posts on his wall, I wanted to have a sensible conversation with him. I liked him, so let's just have a sensible conversation. I private messaged him that I supported gun rights, and immediately he called me a baby killer and just started throwing insults and just being a dick. It might be a South Park phenomenon. They said just the way you convince people in politics is you're just a bigger dick than the other person. That's, my work for some people, that's just not how I roll. That's not how I roll. I would love to have, public debates with members of the community where we all just went out and talked about this idea and that idea, and we could go home at the end of the day and still be friends. We disagreed with this one issue, this one topic. Even in debates, you would pick sometimes people would be assigned the opposite position. And I don't want to say every idea deserves defense, but a lot of ideas are defensible. So he's going to say, you're a baby killer, because I support the Second Amendment. I'm a baby killer. So that his accusation has no basis in reality. I'm a peacenik. I'm anti-war, anti-murder, anti-criminal behavior, anti-hurting other people. Besides self-defense, I'm a total pacifist. Probably, a pushover. So I have even a problem with killing bugs. That little bug, he's just going about his life like I am, minding his own business, not bothering anybody. I've since realized that, they're trespassing and they won't leave, so they're not respecting my space. But only for the flies and cockroaches. Moths, however, I leave alone or attempt to capture them and then release them back into the wild. Spiders, I go back and forth on spiders. So there's a bunch of logic attached to my opposition to gun control. The people need more power, not less. Democracy is when government is afraid of the people, not the other way around. You can't not oppress an armed population. The Second Amendment isn't there for hunters' rights. It's there to prevent tyranny from our government. So because I want to keep the few freedoms we're allotted in the United States, that's why you're going to hate me. We only got like 50 freedoms, and you're going to rip up the second one, you fucking anti-freedom prick. We all need freedom. So if you're willing to part with freedom for a little bit of security, I think it's an illusion. But I believe liberals need guns to protect ourselves from the outgunned right. I also think folks should have a right to defend themselves. How many towns in this United States have no police officers? So that means they have no police protection. There's other places, the ghettos, there's rural areas, poor areas. So you're going to sit there and try to tell me that I'm supposed to lay down for any dickhead criminal who wants to take advantage of us and our lack of police protection? So clearly you must think that the system helps you. You must think that the judicial branch and the police are out there protecting you. You've never had maybe you never had these experiences. So, no fucking way. Self-defense is intelligence. When the judicial system isn't accessible for non-lawyered folks, there's a ton of corruption. So we may have a government that attacks the poor and powerless and lets their powerful and rich friends go free. Meanwhile, you have most of the druggies are cops or domestic abusers. They're insane. So you got a bunch of druggies, insane, domestic abusing druggies who have a badge and a gun, and you're saying let's give them more power to oppress the people. The elitist, wealthy judges and prosecutors, they have all the power, and then they want to take all the rest of our power, so we don't even have any power to begin with. And now you're going to take more away. If I could gain more confidence in our judicial branch of government, I'd be open for gun control. There's also a lot more pressing priorities: poverty, war, homelessness. So we got to fix a lot of things. So start fixing these issues that I also care about, because a lot of liberals care about those issues too. But if you can't work with me because I, agree with 95% of what you believe, but I have a different opinion about gun control, you're going to tell me that my little pistol is the problem with America? Yeah. My little pistol gives me the power to defend myself, especially when nobody else will. So the final straw that broke the camel's back with me is that Jeff Sebastian was telling me that he hated millennials. He agreed with Joe Biden's hatred of millennials, which is dumb politically and intellectually. You're going to scapegoat an entire generation. So if you're a millennial in Kentucky, do not vote for Jeff. Why? Sebastian, he don't like you. He hates you and everybody you grew up with and everybody that's, from 1982 to 1992. He hates every person that was born between those years. Why? Because he's 6 years older and, he thinks he's better than everybody that's younger than him. And he talked to old people and they started bitching about millennials, and then he jumped on board. So he hates the millennials. I believe, I don't know if he hates ranked choice voting or if he likes it. I know he hates millennials. So he's not going to say shit about how Bernie Sanders is awesome and Joe Biden sucks. He's going to say, hey, I agree with Joe Biden. Old Grandpa Grumpensniff is making a good point. No, I rush to defend evil people who have, So Hitler was, I heard this, but I've heard, I guess, both sides. But I heard that he was a vegan. He was a vegetarian. oh, Hitler was a vegetarian, so as long as you're a vegetarian, does that make you good? And Hitler was a vegetarian, so that means we got to rush out to say, hey, no, Hitler was okay. He was a vegetarian. He didn't like to murder animals. He loved murdering humans, and humans are more important, you stupid sick fuck. Shit. So, you know, very rarely will you hear me say anything good about fucking Adolf Hitler. And it's only to use as an example for saying, why rush to say Mitch McConnell's right? Why rush to say that Joe Biden is right? If you like the idea, you can bring the topic up in a different way, but to ride on Joe Biden's fucking coattails. Joe Biden hates millennials, and you know what? I do too. Okay, well, fuck you. That's a stupid opinion. That is a dumb fucking opinion. The future generations are only here because of the past generations anyways. So, he's got 6 years on this planet, more than me, and that's supposed to make me what? Subservient to him? Yeah, fuck you. For real, Gen X is way worse than the millennials in terms of progressive leadership. The millennials got Obama elected. We're going to get Bernie Sanders elected. There's 90 million of us. There's 90 million millennials. So that means we're a bigger demographic than the baby boomers, and that's why they say that Social Security will be bankrupt by the time we're 67 years old. And if the millennials would vote, it's a constructive criticism I have with my generation. Too many young folks do not vote. If we did, 90 million of us, we'd get everything we demand. We'd get it all. Versus, you know, possibly losing it all. Millennials, the technological developments in the 2000s, 2010s, iPhone, iPod, electric cars, there's, you know, a ton of fucking technology. Our technology is progressing at an infinite, exponential rate. And Jeff Sebastian's going to sit there and what? Get me to defend the Goonies? And then he inspired the hatred of some Hillary Clinton asshole who skipped over the part where he was a prick first to defend his position. So if I'm, you know, peacefully sitting by a tree reading my book and somebody comes up and they say, you know what, I hate you millennials. You millennials suck. And then I'm like, what the hell did Gen X do that's so much better, right? And then you jump in, someone else jumps in, no, Gen X is great. Did you ignore that I was peacefully minding my own fucking business and then they started the shit? Who starts a fight or an argument that's very important. Whoever starts the fight is the one responsible. What, you threw fists first? For something they said? I don't give a shit. Fuck you. You're in the wrong. You threw fists first, you're in the wrong. And it's a little different with arguing, but in violence, that's totally correct. I'm sitting by a tree, peacefully reading a book, and I'm attacked. And then people are just, well, you know, you were fighting back, so you're in the wrong too. No, that would be justice, and I'm, you know, not trying to, I don't know what the purpose of someone just randomly attacking you is, probably to murder you, right? Just to keep punching you and hurting you until eventually you're no more. So I would, you know, use self-defense to get away from them. Because, I mean, when's the fight stop? I guess when they're knocked out? Anyways. So there's a lot of good and bad things for both Gen X and for the millennials. This person was a Hillary Clinton asshole just pouring fuel on the fire. And since she skipped over that he was being a fucking prick first, she, I guess, just internalized it. Well, that's okay. He was arguing about Gen X with me the other day. So, you know, that Hillary Clinton asshole is, her sense of morality and justice is as ugly as her face is. And guess which generation introduced us to the Clintons? Yeah, the 90s, the Gen Xers. Maybe you could say it's the 80s generation. What's the 80s? The 80s is called something else. I don't know. I'll think of it eventually. Not Gen X, or it is Gen X, I don't know. Okay, so I didn't interpret his words as hatred. They were contemptuous, it was rude, and I was prepared to tolerate it until that Hillary Clinton asshole jumped on it, and she's just fucking terrible. I felt like I'm just typing on my phone, so I'm going to have to educate her about every goddamn thing, because she has no idea what the fuck is going on. She don't have a good attitude, a good personality, all of her policies are incorrect. So she has to go back to school and just redo everything that, you know, has created her. And I had to type, you know, a life long's worth of education on my little phone, that's too much. I can't give you all that fucking education just by thumbs. Here, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to give you the